Hi, this is Dr. Otto Janke with the Empire Longevity Podcast. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. And more importantly, we want to take you on a ride to what we anticipate to be your best health for your next best decades. In that, we talk about your motion. We talk about your rocket fuel. We talk about how your nervous system has to be optimized. But there's some key elements that we haven't spoken about yet. And this is a fascinating speaker we have today. This is Keren Etkin. And so I have to tell you right now, I'm up at 7 a.m. doing this, and Keren is in Israel. So we're on a little bit of a time frame different here. She calls herself an age tech evangelist. We'll talk about that in just a moment. In 2019, she was awarded the Influencer in Aging, which I find just absolutely fascinating. Keren, I want to thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
This is cool stuff. First of all, what does it mean to be an age tech evangelist?
Great question. So I'm actually a gerontologist by training.
Yes.
And I started my career in the nonprofit sector, and then I transitioned into tech. And in the past few years, I've been working in startups. I co-founded my own company, and I've been also writing about this topic on the gerontechnologies.com, which is a website that covers the global age tech ecosystem. So I feel like my role in this ecosystem is to be shouting from the virtual rooftops and from any platform that will have me that developing technology for older adults, I believe it's the biggest opportunity of this next decade. And I feel like any entrepreneur should be looking at this space, and any investor should be looking at this space.
Absolutely. So what does it mean? What do you think that the viewpoint is right now about this? And what do you anticipate over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
So the viewpoint right now, I have to be honest, it is changing. So where we are in 2021 is not where we were in 2016 when I first started working in startups. And back then, there was an ecosystem. There were many wonderful tech companies developing tech for older adults. However, it was very, very early on in the process.
Yep.
And fast forward 5 years to 2021, the ecosystem is more mature. We have more startups who have been in the market for several years. They have traction, they have revenue. We even had exits, most notably like the Great Call acquisition of 2018, which was acquired by Best Buy for $800 million. So we're in a different place today. And we do have more investors looking at this space, both like generalist funds and also dedicated age tech funds, which is simply amazing to have that resource. So I feel like we're right on the verge of having this ecosystem explode. And once it does, once everyone suddenly realizes that this is a huge opportunity, we'll start seeing more and more companies enter this space. We're already seeing the big tech companies dipping their toes, and sometimes more than just the toes, in this space. And in 10 years, it's possible that many of the categories that you see today on the age tech market map will be saturated. But right now, it's pretty much a blue ocean. So
sure.
I encourage anyone looking to start a business to look into this space, because it's a huge opportunity. There are so many challenges, and there's also a lot of money to be made. So why not?
Well, absolutely. What's amazing is when I talk to people about this, it seems as well, we don't want to work with that aspect, that genre of people, but we forget to realize that we are all going to be those people sooner or later, and that we are going to hit a certain age at a certain time. What are give me a moonshot. What's over the next 10 years do you think could be happening in this arena?
Well, obviously we have a major caregiving crisis. So the demographics is that we have more and more older adults that live longer, and they need more assistance with activities of daily living as they grow older. However, we have fewer and fewer younger people to care for all of these older people, because we don't have so many babies as much as we used to.
Right.
And so there is a caregiving crisis currently going on, and people don't realize it until their parents or their grandparents need care, and they find out that it's not so easy to care for your parents by yourself or with your siblings, or even to find paid help. And that's going to become increasingly challenging as time goes by. So that is like a huge opportunity. And we also have a really interesting opportunity around finances. So making people's wealth span match their lifespan. And it's not so trivial. Many people who are retiring today simply don't have enough money saved to last them for 20 or 30 years.
Correct.
So we have a lot of opportunity around that, not around like making the money that they do have last longer, but also like new models for working. So like gig economy for older adults, and people can get to have a third career and reinvent themselves at 65, because why not? A lot of people still have a lot of obviously a lot of skill and experience, and they don't necessarily want to work full time,
right?
But they do want to continue working. So, and we as a society, we don't provide these opportunities today. So that's another opportunity, and there's really a lot to be done. But those are like the two major ones that I feel are probably the most urgent, and also there is a lot of room for creative solutions there.
Absolutely. I've said for years, for the last number of years, that if you want to make absolutely gobs of money in America, to open adult daycare centers, because the number of people who are going to need that assistance, and the tech, I could see tech just being absolutely fundamental in that. You worked at Intuition Robotics, and you're the company's gerontologist. What did you do there, and why did you get into gerontology?
Why I got into gerontology? Well, I initially got into this profession almost by chance. I was actually a life scientist student. I wanted to be a researcher to find a cure for cancer and all of that. However, during my time at the university, I got involved with a student organization that was helping Holocaust survivors, which are all old these days.
Yeah.
And I realized that aging is actually a fascinating space. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of interesting people to meet. I really enjoyed meeting older adults and having conversations with them and learning from them. It was the best part of doing this. And I went into working in the nonprofit sector, again, with Holocaust survivors. And I got a gerontology degree because that's where I wanted to be in my professional career. And I was recruited to Intuition Robotics as their first employee to initially do the research, like the very basic research of what do we need this robot to do for its users. And it was very, we knew from very early on, like that this robot was not gonna be a substitute for a human companion. However, there is a digital divide between the generations, and most of the family conversation these days, especially in Israel, goes on like digital platforms. And if grandma or grandpa aren't tech savvy enough, they're excluded from the family conversation. Right. So we initially set out to bring them back into the family conversation and have this robot be the enabler of communications. And so this robot could be sitting in my grandma's living room, and I would send a text message or an image or whatever to LEQ, and LEQ would then proactively suggest to my grandmother, hey, you want to see, Keren sent you a message, you want to see it, do you want to reply to Keren? And all my grandmother would need to do to use it was just to use her voice, which was then pretty revolutionary. Sure. And we're looking back at 2016. So that's like how we got started. I went out to do the initial research and find out what older adults wanted us to build for them. And then it obviously had a lot of other features. So it could proactively suggest like music and cognitive games, and the users could ask it for like the news and weather, and could ask to interact with their family. And because it's proactive, then it wouldn't necessarily wait for the user to initiate interaction. So it would learn the environment, it would learn the user, and based on a set of goals, it would decide whether now is a good time to initiate interaction. And if yes, then what is the type of interaction that we should be initiating right now? And sometimes she wouldn't even speak, she wouldn't even make a sound, but she would just flash the lights and just very subtly notify the user that their existence is known, that like, sure, I acknowledge that you just entered the room. And from people who live alone for prolonged periods of time, even that, having someone acknowledge their existence is not so trivial. Oh. And I could go on and on, but I already also forgot what you asked me about, but that is basically what we did with LEQ. And obviously the company is still going strong, and we saw right now with COVID that there is increasing need for tech-based products to solve this challenge of social isolation. So I'm super proud of them and super proud of LEQ and how far she's come.
So let's our listeners, let's take them back to what actually LEQ is. And LEQ is this isn't just a super Alexa. It's nothing like that. I'll leave a link down for the page for that, for the website for it. It is not that by any means. It is so much more intuitive that you really need to see that. The whole technology behind it is fascinating, to say the least, and the opportunity it has. As we have seen in COVID during this time, the amount of our seniors have taken a massive hit with the social isolation, the depression, anxiety, the amounts of medications used, the suicide rates have gone up dramatically because of the isolation. And there's an opportunity to actually decrease that isolation and have an interaction. And this is something that's absolutely fascinating to look at. And I guess the first question is why that? Why LEQ to start off with? Why, of all things to dive into, why that?
Why, you're asking me why I decided to go build a robot?
Yeah.
I felt like at the time I was at sort of an intersection in my career where I had basically two opportunities. One was to go manage the home care unit for the nonprofit that I used to work in at the time. And the other was to go work for a startup and build a social robot. And I felt like home care would always be there. Yep. And building a social robot was sort of a once in a career opportunity. And because I had been working in nonprofits for several years, I already knew how much of a challenge social isolation and loneliness were. And I knew that when older adults would reach out to me and say, hey, Keren, I'm lonely, all I had to offer them basically is, you can go visit the senior living club in your neighborhood, senior club in your neighborhood, or I can find you some volunteers that would come visit you. And what I saw that it doesn't really, it wouldn't move the needle to the degree that these people would all of a sudden stop being lonely. Even if people had 7 volunteers, one for each day of the week, they still had close to 20 hours that they would be spending by themselves.
Right.
And I realized that we needed some scalable solution to solve that, and LEQ could potentially be that scalable solution.
Right, right. So one of the key things is that you talked about the divide in the tech and the use of robotics and the tech between different ages. What is it that you think that even the age of over the 50, what do you think that the people are looking forward to in the tech?
You're asking what older adults are looking forward in the tech?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. I believe that they're looking for any product or service that they invite into their life to bring value. And value is subjective, right? Everyone's looking for different things. So if you're looking at people who are recently retired and they're still healthy and active, they want technology to enable experiences for them, right? To enable either continuing to work in some capacity if they want, or continue to create new social connections, because creating social connections when you're retired and you're no longer part of any organization is hard. So technology could potentially enable people to create new social connections and to find maybe even a life partner, you know, if you're divorced or widowed, and find people to go hang out with. So you have like all the leisure stuff and finding experiences. And for people who are starting their decline and they're a little less healthy than what they used to be, obviously they are looking for solutions to help manage that aspect of their life and to maintain independence for as long as possible, and to continue aging in place. Aging in place is like probably the most important thing for not just for older adults, but for us as a society, because we know it's the best thing for people, right? To stay in their home of choice.
Keren, define what you mean by aging in place.
So aging in place basically means that people can stay to live in the community in their home of choice as long as they would like, rather than to move into a residential community. And we know that that's preferable for most people, and also it's if you're looking at like their wellness, it's better for them. So a lot of the technology that exists today is basically an aging in place enabler, whether that's I don't know, elevators, right, to help you instead of climbing up the stairs, and whether that's medication dispensers that remind you when to take your medication and dispense the right medication at the right time, and delivery services like PillPack, which was actually acquired by Amazon also in 2018. So it's like a full service online pharmacy that brings stuff to your home. Or you know, any type of thing that helps you connect with the outside world, right? So even, you know, even the Alexa devices, and they recently launched like the Amazon Care Hub that allows older adults to communicate with the family more easily, and the family to check in on them. So we have just so many options out there available today, but there's still a lot more that needs to be solved, because at the end of the day, we still need caregivers, obviously. We still need companions. We still need to make sure that people don't get disconnected from society just because their health declines.
Correct. Absolutely. And so when you talk about age-friendly technology, here's a crazy question. When does age-friendly, what age does that start at?
It's a great question. If you're asking me, I believe like the legal cutoff for old age in most countries is 65. But if you're asking me, then old age is at least 75 these days, at least, if not older than that. So basically, once people start experiencing reduced vision, reduced hearing, and a little bit of trouble with dexterity and memory, and just memorizing things, then they start needing more like age-friendly stuff, and stuff that's from the usability aspect is designed for their needs. And we have to remember that usability is only one aspect of it. Like usability is like a basic requirement.
Sure.
We still have, on top of that, we still have desirability. So people need to perceive whatever it is you're offering them as something that will bring value to their life, and they're not gonna just waste their time learning to use new technology only for it to be gathering dust in a drawer somewhere 2 months later.
Sure, like a piece of gym equipment.
Exactly. I use all my gym equipment, Otto. I don't know what about you, but I use every piece of gym equipment that I've ever purchased.
Ever. Especially ones that are 10 years old, and I don't even know what that even means anymore. Absolutely. So how see, in America, we talked about this briefly, is that in America we're finding that the age for getting older is actually decreasing because of our ill health. We're seeing more and more chronic. The lifespan has increased a little bit, but the healthy lifespan has not increased. And we're finding that more and more people are starting with chronic illnesses at a much, much earlier time. As we discussed earlier, that we have seen the numbers in America due to coronavirus, COVID, is that over the age of 54, we've become disposable, and we've seen it in our healthcare system dramatically. As someone who sees the future in this, how am I, as a 58-year-old, going to be impacted over the next 5 years?
I think you're too young to be impacted, Otto. However,
I think your eyesight might be going, Keren. You might need some assistance on that yourself.
Yeah, I am wearing glasses, so you're right about that. But for people in your age group, most likely if you haven't already, you will sometime become a family caregiver to one
Sure.
or both of your parents.
Sure.
So for people in your age group, that is most likely the way that you're going to be impacted. And then once because you're still working and active and you don't really have the capacity to become a full-time caregiver, and your parents are probably living hundreds of miles away, then you're going to need some assistance, whether that is from community services like home care, or whether that from concierge services, or having stuff delivered, and also like having technology in your parents' home. So you'll be able to sort of monitor remotely and know everything is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying that your parents would agree to that, but you might be inclined to suggest something like that in 5 years.
Is there a big difference in Israel and versus America in the distance in which the children move away?
Yes, we're a tiny country.
Right.
So for us, if we live 2 hours away from our parents, that is considered long distance.
Okay.
And in the US, 2 hours is like nothing, right?
Correct.
So we're a very, very close country, and culturally, it's very common for people to continue living in the same city or town that they grew up in.
Sure.
And so we're not a tribal society anymore. So it's not very common for people to have their parents move in with them as they grow older. However, it's very, very common to have your parents and grandparents live very, very close and have them like care for your children. So
right. I
grew up like within less than a kilometer than all of my grandparents, and they were very much involved in my upbringing.
Wow.
So that is the situation for many people here in Israel, and there are many reasons for that, which we don't have the time to go into today. But I think it's at the end of the day, it's very beneficial for everyone involved, and it also makes it makes Israel less similar to the United States in that aspect, because if you're worried about your parents, most likely you're able to drop in after work and
right.
check in on them, even if just for 5 minutes a day. Just knowing that you can stop by
yep.
at any given moment is like a huge difference.
Yep. I live now in my hometown, and I was able to pop into my parents anytime I want to, and it was special, to say the least. Absolutely. And in America, that generational connection has gone away, and to the detriment of our communities and our country, I think. So, Keren, you have, I think, a fantastic website. The Keren Technologist was the first number of times I tried saying it, I didn't say correctly because it screwed me up a little bit. What is the site? Where is it going? And how can people best get to it?
So the Keren Technologist is a website that covers the global age tech economy. I started it because of a personal need that I had a few years ago when I was working at Intuition Robotics, and I realized that there were so many wonderful startups out there
yes.
doing amazing things for older adults, and I wanted to get a snapshot of the industry, so I decided to just create it myself. And once I put it online, it gained so much traction that I just kept on doing it. And it's a pet project that took on a life of its own.
Yes.
So for the past three and a half years, I've been writing about all of the wonderful things revolved around technology for older adults. So like startups, accelerators, investors, everyone working in space, including the big tech companies. And I've also got a monthly newsletter coming out with content not just from the website, but also curated content from all over the world, like all the wonderful news coming out, whether it's opportunities for startups like pitch competitions and awards, or it's exciting news about partnerships and product launches and investment rounds and acquisitions. And the way I see it, it's I want to continue to have it as a resource for this community and to basically be a tool for age tech evangelism, because I feel like the startups who are working in this space don't necessarily get the attention they deserve from traditional tech media. So that is what I like to do. And a really exciting project that is currently going on the General Technologist is the Age Tech Academy, which is a place where entrepreneurs and elder care professionals can come and learn what they need to know to level up their knowledge of aging and technology for older adults. So I invite everyone listening to this to visit the General Technologist. And if you're interested in the Academy, visit thegeneraltechnologist.com/academy.
Absolutely. I highly recommend it. Again, we're big fans of this, and we look forward to that. Hopefully in a short time, you'll be putting us Empire Longevity on there as we get acquired by some major people in America. Absolutely fantastic.
Thanks.